Lights, camera, action. This is the False Prophet channel where we get Islam exposed and the Prophet of Islam exposed, the false prophet Muhammad. Right now, we have a very special video. Tonight, I'm actually recording this live. For those of you who don't know, the Muslim community, they have a chat, an app which you can actually download from your app store, and it's called Islam Chat. And right now, I am having a one-on-one conversation with one of their agents by the name of Hamad. And this is going to be very, very interesting. Okay, let me scroll up to the beginning of our conversation. And right now, we are actually having the conversation as I screen record this. So let's scroll up to the beginning of our conversation. All right. So when you first go into the chat, they have a section where you fill out if you are a Muslim or if you are non-Muslim. So I always choose non-Muslim. Okay. So they start out, as you see, Hamad 2320. He says, "Hello, thank you for visiting Allah's word. How may I help you?" Then I responded, everything that I'm saying is in the blue. Everything the agent is saying, it's in the white. So I responded, "Is paradise an attribute of Allah?" He responded, "No." Then I responded, "Did Allah create paradise?" He said, "Yes." Then I wrote, "Does paradise have its own consciousness like a human being?" He replied, "God knows best." Okay. Then I said to him, "Read what your prophet said. It does have its own consciousness." Okay. So what I did, I screenshotted a conversation that I had previously, the same conversation with another agent. And I screenshotted this hadith that you see in front of you. And I'm about to read it. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The prophet said, "Paradise and the fire argued, and the fire said, I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants." Paradise said, "What is the matter with me? Why do only the weak and the humble among the people enter me?" On that, Allah said to Paradise, "You are my mercy, which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants." Then Allah said to the hellfire, "You are my means of punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. And each of you will have its fill. As for the fire, it will not be filled till Allah puts his foot over it, whereupon it will say, Kati, Kati, which means enough, enough. At that time, it will be filled, and its different parts will come closer to each other. And Allah will not wrong any of his created beings. As regards paradise, Allah will create a new creation to fill it with. Now, before I explain this hadith, I'm going to continue with the conversation to the point where we are at right now. Because again, this is real time. And this conversation me and him are having is taking place right now. But I'm just showing you the hadith that I screenshotted him when I asked him this question, does paradise have its own consciousness like a human being? He wrote, "God knows best." And that's when I copied and pasted this hadith that shows paradise having a consciousness because it's speaking and actually holding a conversation, just like the smoke and the formless fire in Surah 41:11. So if you want to learn more about that, I did a video entitled Surah 41:11 Totally Destroys Islam. Okay, so that was my response to him. You see, he just you look at the bottom of the screen, he said, please wait, we'll reply shortly. So he's still formulating an answer. So we're going to continue until he comes back. So let me just X that out. Okay. So I posted the hadith to show him that paradise does have a consciousness. Okay. So then he wrote in reply to that, he said, that's good. On that day, even your hands will be made to speak. But your question was like humans. Then no, humans have a free will, paradise doesn't. Okay. I asked him, did paradise have a consciousness like humans? Now, he was like, but your question was like humans. Okay. So at this point, he's trying to be creative because Muslims will do this. They'll do those mental gymnastics trying to be creative to get out of a question when they see disaster coming. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you was looking out of your window and you saw a tornado a mile away, you'll run to the basement. So basically, that's what he's doing at this point. Then he said, then no, humans have a free will, paradise doesn't. But it's going to get better. So let me scroll up to show you my response. I said, so you admit now that paradise has a consciousness, but it doesn't have a free will. So did Allah write his decree for paradise like he sent the angel to do for humans when they are born? Now, what I just quoted him comes from a hadith where Muhammad said that whenever a child is born, an angel is sent to write down all of the actions of that child's life. Okay. And the reason why I asked him earlier the question of does paradise have a consciousness like humans? Because, well, we'll get to that. Okay, I said, so you admit now that paradise has a consciousness, but it doesn't have a free will. So did Allah write his decree for paradise like he sent the angel to do for humans when they are born? He said, no. Why is that a condition? Okay, he's trying to see what I'm getting at. He can feel the disaster coming. And then I said, okay. So Allah does not write a decree for paradise, which is a conscious being. Therefore, it has a soul. So I'm answering his question. And then I said, and it's a condition because anything that has a conscience has a soul. So what makes paradise worthy to be paradise versus you not being paradise, even though you both have a conscience created by Allah? So you get what I'm saying? I asked him, I said, so you admit now that paradise has a consciousness, but it doesn't have a free will. So did Allah write his decree for paradise like he sent the angel to do for humans when they are born? He said, no. Why is that a condition? So I read my response. Then he put in parentheses what I said. It's a condition because anything that has conscience has a soul. He's asking me my source. Source, question mark. Sorry, don't get the rest of your logic. Then I wrote to him. What I'm writing is in the blue. Okay, my reason for saying that is because only conscious beings understand issues relating to morality and right and wrong, just like paradise in the hadith. It showed that it had feelings, and feelings are a byproduct of having a soul. Okay? Because he's trying to figure out, when he said, what is the condition? He's trying to figure out my reasoning and my thinking process behind the question. And I had to prove to him that this paradise is a conscious being, okay? It has a soul because it has feelings. Anything that has a soul is connected to its feelings. And as you see in a hadith, the paradise said, what is the matter with me? Let's show you again. You see? The prophet said, paradise and the fire argue, and the fire said, I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. Paradise said, what is the matter with me? Okay. Now, then he said, after I answered his question and said that feelings are a byproduct of having a soul, then he said, please wait a few minutes talking to multiple people. I said, okay. And then I said, in the meantime, read this hadith. So it's the same hadith. As you can see, I'll leave it up there for a few seconds for you to look at it. There we go. Even if you need to pause the video right now, you can do that. Okay, let's continue. Then he said, let me ask you this first. Do you accept God exists? Okay. This is what Muslims do when they see themselves in a room and the walls are closing in on them. That's when they start panicking and think of a way out. It's either they're going to switch the conversation or they're going to go into ad hominems. And with this chat, they either going to find a reason to disconnect you and block you. They've done that to me on several occasions. When I had them cornered, when I said something to them that they couldn't answer, they'll send you a message that say, you broke one of the guidelines or rules of the chat room, and they'll just, delete you. And then you'll have to uninstall and then download the app again. Then he said, this is the little diversion question. He says, let me ask you this first. Do you accept God exists? I said, yes. And please do not divert from my question because I seen what was about to take place. He said, it's important to this context because if you accept God, then you also accept that God is able to give life to things. For example, we know on the day of judgment, death will be slaughtered. That's crazy, right? Like you see these concepts in Islam, like for instance, I didn't even bring that up. He brought that up about death being slaughtered. They actually believe that concepts they personify concepts. Like when you read Surah 41:11, it personifies the smoke and the formless earth. By the way, go check that video out that I did. And even in the hadith that I just showed you, it's personifying paradise and hell. These are places, and it's given these places life and consciousness. It's kind of like animism. You know how animists believe that trees have spirits in them and people who worship nature and all of that. Then I wrote to him, also, if your reward as a Muslim is to gain paradise, and this place supposed to be free from worry or stress, where all is perfect, then why would paradise itself be asking, what is the matter with me? Do y'all get what I'm saying? When one asks, what is the matter with me? That question stems from one having self-doubt that they are not 100% okay. From one having self-doubt that they are 100% okay. So how can this conscious paradise be a perfect place when paradise itself didn't even feel 100% satisfied with its own condition? And yet this place was created by Allah, as you admitted, because he told me that. But even still, it doubted its own mental health by saying, what is the matter with me? And then I wrote 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here comes the mental gymnastics. LOL, because I could feel it coming. And you said paradise was not an attribute of Allah, but he said to paradise, you are my mercy. So it is his attribute. Let's go back and prove what I'm saying. You see, I said, is paradise an attribute of Allah? He said, no. I said, did Allah create paradise? He said, yes. Both of those answers were wrong because attributes are uncreated. But he said yes. You see, when I asked him, is paradise an attribute of Allah? He said no. You see, when you study Islam, the more you will find out that Muslims don't know anything about their own belief system. And you'll discover that the more you have discussions with Muslims and the more you have, debates with them, you'll realize that a lot of the time they are just blind. They blindly following this stupid religion. And it's sad how they have been lied to and deceived. But let's scroll down back to the part where we was at. Okay, I just had to show you where I had asked him those questions. Okay, and you said paradise was not an attribute of Allah, but he said to paradise, you are my mercy. So it is his attribute. So mercy is an attribute of Allah. And notice in the hadith, he even made it explicit. He said, my mercy. So in other words, i.e., my attribute of mercy. My is a possessive. It's a possessive word. Whenever you say my, you claiming ownership, that's a possessive noun. Then I wrote, so this hadith shows Allah's attribute was not 100% sure of itself. And Allah's attributes are uncreated, but you said paradise was created. And mercy is one of the attributes of Allah. So let's listen to his response. He said, is it possible you can share your number? I will be happy to call you. I don't wish to ignore or anything, but talking to many people at once. So please, if you can wait, I'll reply. Otherwise, I can call you once I'm free. Now he set me up for the okie doke. This is what they do. This is one of the tactics they'll use. They'll send you into the waiting corner so you will eventually tire out and just disengage with the conversation. And he said, I'm from NJ, but I had a trick for him. Patience is a virtue, people. I responded. So this means Allah's attribute was not satisfied. I kept the conversation going. You got to keep drilling them. Don't let them escape. I said, I can wait. You see, I told him I can wait. I'm in no hurry. I'm home from work. I'm making this video. It's 12 something in the morning. So I'm good. Then I wrote, a perfect attribute would have no worry within it. This hadith proves Allah is not perfect, because if so, his attribute would have felt perfect. How can a perfect God have an imperfect attribute? Then he said, sorry, don't understand what you mean. This is what the Muslims will do. They'll play dumb. I'm sure everybody listening to what I'm saying heard how clear and precise my comment was to him. But this is what Muslims do. They do this to frustrate you. This is just one of the tactics they use. He said, sorry, don't understand what you mean. He is not perfect. How can you have the ability to judge perfection when you have to accept that you are not perfect yourself? So now what he is doing is he see that I have him. I have his religion by the coattail and it can't run away. So now what he's doing, he's going into that ad hominem personal attacks. This is another mechanism that Muslims will employ. Once you get them cornered, they'll start talking about Jesus and calling him a man God and you are a pagan, and they'll try to do everything to escape the disaster at hand. So as you see, what he's telling me is, how can I say that the attribute is not perfect because I'm not perfect myself? He's using some stupid logic. I don't know, call that logic or some stupid reasoning. Okay, let's read what he said again. He said, sorry, don't understand what you mean. He is not perfect. How can you have the ability to judge perfection when you have to accept that you are not perfect yourself? But hold up, it only gets better. I had a perfect response for him. I wrote, what don't you understand? You Muslims say the Quran is the word attribute of Allah and it is perfect, and likewise paradise is also one of his attributes, but yet it did not feel perfect, meaning this attribute was not perfect because a perfect attribute could not feel any sense of imperfection. It's very simple. Then he highlighted what I said and he put it in parentheses. He said, yet it did not feel perfect. Then he wrote, my question is, how exactly are you judging perfection when you yourself and I are full of imperfection? Now, watch my brilliant response by the grace of God, what I said to him. Watch what I said. Look what he said. He said, my question is, how exactly are you judging perfection when you yourself and I are full of imperfection? Now, notice he's not attacking what I'm saying because he realized what I'm saying is right. So now what he is doing, he is questioning my judgment of what I showed him. But watch how it backfires on him. I wrote, if Allah is the one to set your mind at ease, then his attribute of paradise does not reflect that he is perfect peace, speaking about Allah, and the fact it's paradise saying this makes it even worse. You get what I'm saying? The fact that it's paradise saying, what is the matter with me? What is the matter with me? It makes it even worse. Because paradise is the place where Muslims are supposed to go to find perfect peace in the afterlife. But yet, this conscious residence of all eternity wasn't even sure about his own self. You see? Then I wrote, if you're going to ask me that question, then how can you say the Quran is perfect when you are not perfect? You see how I made it backfire on him? Remember what he said. He said, my question is, how exactly are you judging perfection when you yourself and I are full of perfection? And look what I responded and said. If you're going to ask me that question, then how can you say the Quran is perfect when you are not perfect? Don't try that game with me because it can go both ways. And if you're going to take that stand, then how can you tell anyone that Islam is the perfect religion? By using that as an escape, you only making it worse, bro, for your own beliefs. Then he wrote, he's like, that's brilliant how he responded to that. Then he wrote, I'm using God's standards to say it, not mine. It's from God who's saying it's perfect. God said that. God said the paradise was perfect, even though it's showing that it's questioning its own mental health. But let's continue. I said, okay, since you want to go there, then God's attribute has a bit of worry within it. LOL. Because he just said God said it was perfect. Then I said, okay, since you want to go there, then God's attribute has a bit of worry within it. LOL. But yet it's supposed to be the attribute of God Almighty and heaven on top of that. Look at the irony in that. Like I was saying earlier, this is paradise saying, what is the matter with me? But yet this is supposed to be the place where Muslims go for eternal mental peace, free from stress, free from worry, all the sex in the world, all the wine in the world. But yet this conscious residence that they enter has doubt about itself. So their paradise is not even 100% at peace. But yet this is the place where they will find 100% peace. Muslims. Now he's back on this, do I know God? But you have to accept God exists first. He already asked me that at the beginning of the conversation. I already told him that I believe God exists. So what he is doing, he sees at this point that he has been utterly defeated by the grace of God. And he's trying to use a diversion before we can delve into the attributes. But I already asked you that. I already answered that question, Hamad. I wrote, I do accept that he exists. He says, awesome. Then he asked me, How does God's attributes have a worry? I've already answered that question. This is another thing, and I'm not even trying to be funny, but have you Christians ever spoke to Muslims and it seems like they missing a few brain cells? It's like they don't understand logic, concise words. I mean, you can say things clear as day. You can say, I looked up at the sky and the sky was blue and I saw the white clouds and the birds flying in the air. They'll say, huh? It's like you gotta speak at 1 miles per hour for them. I don't know if the Islam training and raising, being raised up as a Muslim, if it does something to their brain. I don't know if they playing stupid, but I've noticed that it don't matter what Muslim I talk to, no matter what race, nationality, creed, color, they all have that same slow, retarded mentality. And I know what it is. It's because, when the devil has full control over your mind, I mean, he'll have you ignorant and acting like you mentally retarded or something. But that's why Jesus can deliver you from that state of mental retardation. And I'm not trying to be funny, but this is how Muslims act when you are actually engaging with them. It's like they don't understand logic. But anyway, he said, how does God attributes have a worry? I said, because it said, what is the matter with me? Come on, bro. You smarter than that. I understand you have to play the role of defending Islam, but I'm a straight up person. You know that this is not a good look. What do you mean? He's still acting retarded. This is what they do on purpose. I'm almost positive that they are trained to play stupid like this. How many of you have ever experienced this? When these Muslims, they play dumb and stupid, like, man. Then I responded, what I mean is I'm 100% sure that you see that Paradise saying, what is the matter with me, proves that it was not 100% sure of itself. And when you are not 100% sure of yourself, then you are doubting your health, and that will not have you feeling at peace with yourself. It's simple as that. It's 12 a.m. It's a new day. We still going at it. And then I wrote to him, and just a note, if you are thinking of a way to discredit the truth I just wrote, then know that you are only fighting against the real spirit of truth that has just now touched you. Because I'm positive that he is being touched by this. Then I wrote, at that point, you would be going against the real spirit of God that is using me to open up your eyes. And if you think this is a test of Allah, then Allah failed the test, as you see, because you know, like I know, is no way around the clear logic I just showed you by God's grace. Time is winding short. Islam will only send you to hell. Don't allow this cult to take you under. Muhammad is wishing he would have never denied Christ. Don't end up like him. Leave this cult before it's too late. Then he wrote, please wait, we'll reply shortly. And that's where we have been since that last, because you see where it says read, he read it. And this is where we have been since his last response. And he has yet to return. Do I think he's going to return? No. If he does return, it will surprise me. This is not the first time that this has happened to me on this chat line. They'll leave you and they won't come back. And they plan is to, wait you out so you'll just get tired and just X out of the chat. But it's okay because I got all that I needed to do the video that I'm recording right now. And what I'm doing right now is proving a point that Allah is not a perfect God, because his attributes are a reflection of him. Just like a mother and father, your children are a reflection of you. They carry the DNA of you. Okay? So since these attributes are attributes of Allah, then they are what? They are a attribute of Allah. So if paradise has even an ounce of worry in it, that's a reflection of Allah. So that means Allah is not perfect if his attribute is not perfect. If his attribute is not at 100% peace, then how is Allah 100% at peace? You get what I'm saying? That shows a flaw in Allah himself. His attribute has a flaw, he has a flaw within him. Because the attribute of Allah is a byproduct of Allah. He's claiming this. This is his representation. You get what I'm saying? So if his representative is not 100% right, what does that mean? Allah is not 100% right. And we're going to go back to this hadith because the Spirit just showed me something. Let's go back to the hadith. Let's scroll back up. Now let's read it. Let's break this down. What caused paradise to doubt itself in the first place? Now, mind you, this is the attribute of Allah. When you read a hadith, when you go into it, you will find out that this paradise, this mercy of Allah, doubted itself. Again, Muslims hearing this, this is the attribute of your God, doubting itself. That's like the Quran doubting itself. The Quran is also an attribute of Allah. So this is the same as the Quran. They are both attributes of Allah. Now, let's read the hadith. The Prophet said, paradise and the fire argued, and the fire said, I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. Paradise said, what is the matter with me? Why do only the weak and the humble among the people enter me? On that, Allah said to paradise, you are my mercy, which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants. Then Allah said to the fire, you are my means of punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. So as you see, what highlighted to me is the fact that paradise only questioned itself because of what hell said. You see? Hell and paradise were arguing with each other. So paradise is basically doubting itself because hell said it's been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. Okay? Paradise said, what is the matter with me? Muslim, do you see how devastating this is? The attribute of your God doubted itself because of something that a wicked place called hell said. Hell said something that made the attribute of Allah doubt its mental health. But this is the attribute of Allah. It's supposed to be protected, right? Just like Allah says, He protects the Quran. So why isn't He protecting His attribute of paradise? That's showing that within the attributes of Allah, He doesn't have an equal insurance coverage for all of His attributes to protect them. Because as you see, hell, the wicked place where all the bad people go, was able to make the attribute of Allah doubt itself. To the point, Allah had to come to the rescue. And look what Allah said to paradise. It said, you are my mercy, which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants. Now, a Muslim might say, well, this is not an attribute of Allah. How can you say it? It is an attribute of Allah. Let's read what it says. You are my mercy, which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants. Mercy is an attribute of Allah. And Allah is the one saying that paradise is his mercy. Let's read it again, because you know the Muslims, they like to play retarded and get slow and act like children who can't read or write or talk, deaf, dumb, and blind, and stupid and ignorant. And I'm not insulting, but we just keeping it real on this channel. Let's read what it says. You, Y-O-U, are my, which is a possessive, M-Y, mercy, M-E-R-C-Y. You are my mercy. You are my mercy. 3 times, because in Islam they say everything 3 times because they copying after the Trinity, but yet they'll deny the Trinity. Go figure. You are my mercy, which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants. Okay, so because Allah, this is something else. Thank you, Spirit. Something else was highlighted to me. Because Allah had to tell his attribute this, that mean what? I'll give you 5 seconds to try to figure it out. Allah, I'm going to give you a hint. Allah had to tell his attribute what it was. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You know what it means? It means that this attribute of Allah is not all-knowing, but yet it's an attribute of Allah. But yet it doesn't have the gift of all-knowing. It's incomplete. It has holes in it. It can be attacked if put in the right argument, as we see right before you. It's able to doubt itself. This is the attribute of the Almighty Allah, Al-Haq, the God who has 99 names. It's showing a weakness. This is the uncreated mercy of Allah showing a weakness. It's showing a weakness. This is the uncreated attribute of Allah, which has to be told what it is. Allah is just now, he's supposed to be all-knowing, but he's just now telling the paradise what it is. He's all-knowing, but yet he didn't know that this paradise and hell would get in an argument and paradise would doubt itself. So that means for all of the eons of time before this argument even happened, Allah still allowed his paradise to doubt itself. He allowed this to happen, and this is, again, paradise. Don't y'all see the irony in this? That's why I said Allah did not have he don't have equal coverage and equal insurance policy to protect all of his attributes. Even hell, the hellfire, didn't even show a sign of weakness. Hell showed more mental peace than paradise. Do y'all see the irony in this? Hell felt good about itself. Let's read what hell had to say. Paradise and the fire argued, and the fire said, I have been given the privilege. He said it proudly. I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. Paradise said, oh my gosh, what is the matter with me? Why do only the weak and the humble amongst people enter me? As if it didn't know why it was created. Well, uncreated, well, whatever they say. Well, this is uncreated. But it doesn't know why it's uncreated. So that means for all of the eons up to this point, this uncreated paradise didn't know why it was existing as paradise until it gets into this argument with hell. And now lazy Allah, he finally lazy Allah finally musters up the courage to get off his arse and tell paradise its reason for existence. But this is again his attribute, but yet his attribute is not all knowing. So that shows laziness in this all knowing Allah, because if he is all knowing, he could have prevented his paradise from ever feeling this type of hurt. Because he would have known beforehand that paradise was going to get in an argument with hell. He could have already told paradise this, but he chose not to. He was lazy. He waited till the day the tragedy happened before he mustered up the energy to go tell paradise its purpose. You see? Which it should have already known if it's a attribute of Allah. There's no way out of this, Muslims. No way. You can run and tell your imam about this. You can question whoever. This is clear as it gets. This is clear as it gets right here. And look, Hamad still haven't came back. Let's go back and see if he came back yet. Nope, I'm still waiting. Please wait. We'll reply shortly. He still haven't came back. Hamad still haven't came back, but it's all good. Because I'm taking his time to teach. I don't need him. I got all what I needed. But let's continue breaking down this hadith. So, the hellfire is the one. He's the one who felt like he had confidence. The hellfire is the one. So now let's start asking other questions about, common sense questions to begin with. Like, for instance, how in the heck can paradise be personified in the first place? When paradise is made up of things, okay? They have, what did the Quran say? They have dome buildings, they got trees, they got birds flying around, they got big-breasted women, they got the 50,000 little boy servants, and a whole host of things. If I missed anything, please feel free to put it in the comment section. But this paradise, it has a consciousness, okay? That's how do they explain that? I don't know how the Muslim is going to explain that. And fire. How does fire? How can fire talk? Can anybody tell me that? How can fire speak? Fire and paradise. So that's the first question that stands out to me. Like, how is this fire and paradise talking to each other in the first place? That's question number one. Now we're just going into like questions that make you go, things that make you go, when you're reading this particular hadith. So that's the first question. Second question is, how did paradise and fire, how did they get in this conversation anyway? It says paradise and the fire argue. It's like they next door neighbors. Like paradise lives on this side of the street, hell lives on this side of the street, and paradise and the fire, they arguing with each other. Okay, that's the second thing that stands out to me. The third thing is they are speaking the divine speech of Allah. Okay? Because whenever Allah speaks, it's the uncreated word. Whenever he is speaking, it's the uncreated word. Okay? So, which in itself doesn't make sense, because how can an uncreated word contain past tense? You get what I'm saying? This is a story that's being told, and all stories contain present and past tense. You get what I'm saying? The makings of a story is built with future, past, and present. They have a three tenses within a story: future, past, present. Johnny walked in the room. Johnny looked around. Johnny left the room. Johnny is going to the store now. That's future, past, and present. So how can those three elements exist within something uncreated? But that's, we're just putting it out there for the Muslims. Let them tell us, Okay, so now that's the second, obvious question. How did paradise and fire get into this argument anyway? Did fire, did it throw a hot coal into paradise? Because they say and that's not far-fetched, because they say that the black cobblestone fell from paradise. So it could have been vice versa. Paradise could have chucked a stone over into the fire. The fire could have threw one of the hot coals over there into paradise, and they started arguing, and paradise was like, hey, hell, why are you throwing those hot rocks over here? And paradise could have threw one of the stones over into the hellfire, like, they say the black stone, which descended from paradise. So that could have been the reason why they was arguing with each other. You Muslims tell us how they start arguing. You tell us, you know more about this than we do, so you tell us. Okay, so let's continue reading. And it says, the third thing that will come to mind is this right here. How did paradise, as I was asking Hamad, how did paradise become paradise in the first place? How did fire become fire in the first place? Because again, you see, all beings that understand morality and have emotional feelings, they are all creatures that have consciousness. Any creature that can tap into its feelings and its emotions are not exempt from being judged. So the Muslim got to tell us this. If Allah is all just, he's all wise, and I'm scratching my head right now, then how on earth did paradise, which has emotions, as we have seen. Now, I'm not saying that this is what paradise said. It told you what's the matter with me? It has feelings, it has emotions. And hell has feelings as well. Hell said, I have been given a privilege. It understands reward. I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. And Allah didn't say that hell was wrong. It didn't say, I didn't give you a privilege to receive the arrogant and the tyrants. So obviously this hell is a conscious being that was rewarded by Allah. It was rewarded by Allah. So the third question we have is, what did these conscious beings do to deserve these positions? Why didn't Allah make you paradise? Why he didn't make you hell? Why did he put your consciousness in a human body to live out a life on this earth where your outcome is in jeopardy? Because if Allah is all just, Why is it that he wrote paradise to be paradise? Paradise don't have to go through no test. You know how they say, well, this life is a test, which doesn't make sense in itself, because how can this life be a test and be something that is decreed by Allah in the same sentence? You can't say this life is a test and a decree of Allah at the same time. A decree means whatever is written down for you will manifest and it will happen. So you can't say this life is a test and then turn around and tell me that it's a decree of Allah at the same time. That does not make sense, because a decree means just like a king stands up from his throne and say, I decree that you be sent to jail. You have to be sent to jail. So if Allah is the ruler, if he decrees something, there is no test within it. He has already written your life down, and that's what it is. So what is the reason why paradise and the fire have these positions, these privileged positions, I mind you? Because, you know, you got to ask yourself, is hell being tortured for being hell? I don't think the hellfire is hurting. It's the one doing the hurting. So here you have this conscious being called hell, created by Allah, who is so happy that he is the one chosen by Allah to burn people alive for all eternity. So this hell, no, it's uncreated. This is uncreated, because you see, Allah is saying that this hell is his means of torturing his slaves. So this hell, you can say, is also an attribute of Allah, because it's one of his means of, you know what, it is an attribute of Allah. And you know why I say that? It's because the opposite of paradise is what? It's hell. So both of these are his attributes. One of his attributes is paradise. He used it to reward his slaves. And his other attribute is hell, which he used to punish his slaves, as it says. So both of these are the attributes of Allah, but there is an imbalance within these attributes, because one attribute, hell, is feeling good about itself. It's upbeat. Paradise is unsure about itself. It doubted itself. You get what I'm saying? So that shows a clear imbalance within Allah, within his attributes. And like we said, a person's attributes are a reflection of that person. So one of your attributes as a human is your strength. If you are physically weak, that's a reflection of your health. You know, maybe you got a reason why you don't have adequate strength. There's a reason. There's a physical reason. Maybe you have an illness. Maybe you're not eating the right foods. But either way, your physical strength is an attribute linked to your description as a person. Someone will say, I know John, he played football with me in high school and he was very strong. You see, that would be describing one of the attributes of John. So people would know you, would know you as John, who played on my football team in high school, and he was very strong. So your attribute gave the validation of what type of person you was. Your attribute basically conveyed your quality. It displayed your quality. So when people speak about you, your attribute shows who you are. So the attribute of Allah in the case of paradise shows that Allah is weak. And we see this displayed in the Quran. The same unsurety about this paradise is displayed in the Quran. When it says things like, may Allah bless you. Whenever you say may, it's like asking. It's a question which doesn't give you a certain answer. It's like, by his grace possible, if you do right. You get what I'm saying? So this attribute of paradise is really in line with how the Quran is. So when it says in the Quran, may, when Allah, whenever he says may, it says may. That's not a yes or no. It's like maybe, like the word maybe. It begins with may. Maybe, be, maybe, be, meaning depending upon the conditions, maybe this will happen. Maybe, and that's all throughout the Quran. And I can give you plenty of examples, but I would have to leave my screen right now. And I'm afraid that if I don't want to X out of this and, lose my screen. But you can look it up for yourself. And what I'll do, I'll actually put an example of that in the description box. So this paradise, it mirrors how Allah speak in the Quran with unsurety. You get what I'm saying? So what this is actually doing is showing the weakness of Allah, because an attribute, like in the example we gave with John on the football team, an attribute is the spokesperson of that person. It's like it's like the vice president of the president. When the president is not around, the vice president can sometimes tour on his presidential candidacy. When they go from city to city, the vice president, he does Q&As for the president running for the election. You see? So this attribute of Allah is not representing Allah to the fullest, as we have shown and proved. So that's just another question, that stands out to me. Oh, y'all, he finally comes back. He said hi. Okay? He said hi. Oh, it's another person. Hey, he just put me out. He said, due to continued abusive behavior, I have to you see? Due to continued abusive behavior, I have to disconnect this chat. If you would like to read about Islam, please take a look at this nice book. Oh my, I'm happy they did that in real time. You see? I didn't do anything abusive. You see that? In the Islamic mind, and I'm so happy he did that. This is a real-time example of how Muslims get down. They are liars. They are deceivers, like their God Allah. He is the great deceiver. This is how they get down, and you just saw it in real time. Another one came who took the place of Hamad. Hamad lied. He transferred me. Hamad, please wait. He said, please wait. We'll reply shortly. Hamad lied. He transferred me to someone named Monib. He said hi, and immediately he wrote, due to continued abusive behavior, I have to disconnect this chat. If you would like to read about Islam, blah, 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 blah. You see? So in the mind of the Muslim, questioning the stupidity of their God and their prophet and their religion is considered abusive behavior. Whether or not you say something that is inappropriate to them. You see? So the abusive behavior is the fact they got exposed. So in the Muslim's mind, exposing their belief is abusive behavior. As far as they're concerned, exposing their belief is abusive behavior. But it don't matter because we got what we needed. I'm happy he did that because he don't know, but that was the hand of God showing up in real time. We needed that. We needed that. We needed that. We needed that. That helped us out right on time. So you will see. Now let's continue in the with the hadith. So Muslims, tell us, what did this consciousness do to deserve these privileged positions? And why didn't you get these positions? Why did Allah put you through a test, but he didn't put these conscious beings through a test? So you got to ask yourself, if these conscious beings, the paradise and the fire, didn't have to go through a test, they're not going to show up and be judged. They don't have to be judged. If they are conscious, if they have emotions and feelings just like you, then why did they escape having to worry about what happens to them after they die? Is that fair to you as a Muslim? Because Muslims say all the time, Muslims, like ex-Muslims, they say, one of the problems I had, this is what they'll tell you, one of the problems I had as being a Muslim was the fact of not knowing if I was doing enough to please Allah. Muslims are not sure where they will go in the afterlife. They only given one sure promise that they will make it in the afterlife, and that's if they do a jihad mission. Like if they blow themselves up or become a martyr for the sake of Islam. And I also did a video on that. Go to the video I did about reincarnation in Islam, the pagan belief of reincarnation in Islam. And I did a whole video on that. So the question to the Muslims is, what did these conscious beings do to deserve the escape of having to worry about will they go to hell or not? They're not going to be judged. They don't have to circle the Kaaba. They got emotions just like you. Why are they so privileged by Allah? You see? As the fire said, I have been given the privilege of receiving the arrogant and the tyrants. What did these conscious beings do to deserve this privilege of not having to worry about what will happen to them in the afterlife? They don't go through any test. You see? Problems, problems, problems. Problems, problems, problems for the Muslim all around. With this one hadith, it spells trouble, 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 trouble for the Muslim all around. Now, more questions. This clearly shows that Allah is not just, because he dishes out judgment and test for some of his conscious beings. And on the other hand, he's put some of them in hell, as we continue to read. Let's read further. Allah, to reassure paradise, Allah said, you are my mercy which I bestow on whoever I wish of my servants. Then Allah said to the fire, you are my means of punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. Notice it says, whoever I wish. So he's not putting these conscious beings, you and I and the people who live on this earth, he's not putting them in hell for something that they did. And the hadith also backs this up. It's another hadith that says that, and I'm going to do another video on free will in Islam. Is there a free will? Is there a such thing as free will in Islam? I'm gonna do a video on that. But as you see, there are hadiths. Actually, it's two hadiths. Okay. It's a hadith about when Aisha was at a funeral and a baby had died. And she said to Muhammad, this child is now amongst the birds of paradise. And then Muhammad told her, no, Aisha, it's up to Allah. Whatever he wrote for the child, then it will play out for that child. So if he wrote that child will go to hell, the child will go to hell. If he wrote that that child will go to paradise, that child will go to paradise. Because as you see right here, what Allah said to the fire to confirm what I just told you, he said, then Allah said to the hellfire, you are my means of punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. So it's not by them doing a sin or doing a good deed. No. Punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. You are my punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. And I repeat, you are my punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. And when Allah told hell this, he had a big smile on his face. Because remember, hell said he was privileged to be the torturer. Can you imagine an uncreated being for all time happy about being the consciousness that tortures someone? So this is like Allah rewarding pain and agony. But like Hamad said, he said on Judgment Day, death is going to be slaughtered. But that's a contradiction to what Allah said to the fire. If fire is not death, if fire and punishment for all eternity is not death, then what is death? If, like Hamad told us, he said death is going to be slaughtered on Judgment Day. So if death is going to be slaughtered on Judgment Day, then why is Allah telling fire that he will put whoever he wished into fire, and that fire is his means of punishment, one of his attributes? You get what I'm saying? So if fire is not death, then what is death then? None of this stuff makes sense. It's contradictory after contradictory after contradictory. You see? So you have a attribute of Allah called torture, called punishment, hellfire, who Allah says he punishes people by him wishing to do it. Not because of something they did, not because of a punishment that they earned or deserved. It doesn't say that. It says, you are my means of punishment by which I punish whoever I wish of my slaves. So that in itself shows an injustice in Allah, because Muslims tell you that he is all just. But Allah tells you by the mouth of his prophet that he decrees everything. So basically, whoever he decrees to go to hell, it's just like if you in your sock drawer, right? And you've got all white socks. All of them look the same. Whatever pair of socks that you pick out of the drawer to put on, those socks didn't deserve to be worn. And say if the other socks had consciousness, right? All of them are white socks. All of them fit your foot perfectly. All of them are clean. And you decide to take 6 of them, 6 pairs of the socks out of the drawer that you take on a trip. And the other the other pairs of socks, you say to yourself, I'm gonna just burn these. That's basically what Allah is doing. He is just picking things out to send to hell, not because of anything that they earned, not because of any bad deed. Because there's another hadith that says that you can do all the good deeds that you want to do in this life. You can do all the bad deeds that you want to do in this life. And it matters not. Because when you get to the door of judgment, if your deeds that was written before you were born, they will supersede you at Judgment Day. And whatever was written for you, that will be your outcome. So no matter how many times you do Hajj, no matter how many times you did praying 5 times a day, no matter what you did, you can do all of the cleaning rituals. You can do all of that. You can do all of the charity. Doesn't even matter. If it was written for you as a Muslim to go into the hellfire, that's what it will be. And Allah is not even saying that this has anything to do with a decree. I mean, he's like, bump that decree stuff. Hey, it's whoever I wish. Whoever I wish. That's not a decree. When you wish something, that's something that's done spontaneously. So Allah is saying, whoever I wish. It don't say whoever is decreed, which is something done beforehand. No, it's saying whoever I wish of my slaves. And notice he calls them slaves. He calls them slaves. And he'll just throw them in the fire. And these Muslims are proud to be called slaves. You proud to be worshiping a God who can just wish you to go to hell and just say, whoever I wish. He already said it don't matter if you do a good deed. It don't matter if you do a bad deed. If he just wish you go to hell, that's just what it is. Does this people who's listening to me right now, does this sound like I am describing God? Do this sound like I am describing God? No. I am describing the devil to you. This Allah is the devil. I'm describing to you the devil. Only a devil would do something like this. Boy, as for the fire, it will not be filled till Allah puts his foot over it, whereupon it will say, Kati, Kati, which means enough, enough. At that time, it will be filled, and its different parts will come closer to each other, and Allah will not wrong any of his created beings. As regards paradise, Allah will create a new creation to fill with it. So he has already decided, as it says, he will create a new creation to fill it with. It don't say he's going to create a new creation, put it through a test. He has already decided. He's going to fill it with a new creation. So he's telling hell, he's promising hell, I'm going to fill you up. So he want to fill it up. He's feeding the hell souls. And the hellfire is just smiling. It's privilege. Since Allah can control everything, and this is by his wish, he is wishing that people go to hell. Because he promised the hellfire, I'm going to fill you up. I'm going to fill you up. So he is just randomly picking and choosing who he will torture and who he will allow into paradise. And does this sound like God to you? This is evil. This is wicked. Now, let's break down some more problems I see with this. Some more problems I see with this hadith. Now, like the paradise attribute reflects the weakness of Allah, the hell attribute reflects the evilness of Allah. You get what I'm saying? And to confirm what I'm saying, there's another hadith that says that if Muslims did not sin, you know what it says? It says Allah would wipe you out and replace you with another people who would sin. That's what it says. And I'm gonna do all of that. I'm gonna reveal all of those hadiths in my next video, which will prove that Muslims do not have free will. Muslims do not have free will. I'm going to expose that in my next video that I do. So the hell reflects the evilness in Allah, where he just want to fill it up with people indiscriminately. He just want to fill hell up with people. So none of this is adding up. And the only thing all of this is doing is proving that Islam is a religion of Satan, started by Satan, for the purpose of sending people to hell and to blind people from the truth. And that's it. There's no way a Muslim can fight out of this video. This is 100%. This seals the deal. This is the nail in the coffin. This, along with the other videos we've already put out, this is another major nail in the coffin of Islam. We're going to finally put this thing to rest on this channel. And I'm going to end this video right here. This is the False Prophet channel. Thank you for tuning in. I want you all to leave your comments in the comment section. And hope you got something out of it. I know I did. You should share this video to your Muslim friends. Post it on your social media accounts, because this needs to be heard. And with that, this is the False Prophet channel. This is Brother Jacob, and signing out.